I'd like to call to order the Board of Education meeting, June 24th, 2014 at 7 o'clock p.m. Kathy, could you please call the roll?
Blakely.
Yes.
Gaspar.
Here.
Hodge.
Here.
Impastato.
Here.
Locke.
Here.
Stoops. Drell.
Here. Mr. Hodge, would you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Deb predictions, are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
There are two changes to the consent agenda. One change is the track replacement bid, consent agenda item number 12. We will remove that and vote on that separately. And then there is a change in the personnel report that Mr. Pierce will go over when he reads the personnel report. We're adding Josh Bulak on the personnel report.
Okay, then do I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda with those two changes noted?
So moved.
Second.
Did you have a question? I'm sorry. Any discussion? Oh, I'm sorry. Was that moved by Blakely, second by Jasper?
Yes.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes.
Of the consent agenda or?
No, we're not
Okay.
just about the agenda itself.
Sorry.
Any questions about those changes? Okay, next we will move to public comments. Kathy, do we have any public comments tonight?
We don't.
Okay. Moving on to, is there a representative from BESPA tonight that would like to address us?
Yes.
Here she is.
You want to just sit
Just
here?
come on up.
All right.
Hold on 1 second. This is really slow.
Sure.
I'm trying to get to where I'm waiting for it to get to
I
right.
actually like it when it's slow because then I have time to process it.
Okay, my name is Joan Cram.
Oh, wait, you can't talk yet, don't you? Sorry. Looking at the guy.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
I might have to repeat this one. Okay, we're just gonna wing it. Okay, go ahead.
All right, my name is Joan Cram. I am an LRC paraprofessional at Matoma Middle School, and I'm representing the BESPA people tonight. Our president, Jennifer Carroll, is not here. And I let you guys know we are in negotiations right now, union negotiations. It's going pretty well so far. We've accomplished a lot. We're down to the nitty gritty. But I thought I would use this opportunity to tell all you people a little bit about the LRC people, because a lot of you might not know about us. We don't just check out books and reshelve them. We are very important to the school. I'm lucky to have one of the jobs where I actually interact with almost every staff member at the school, like all the teachers and every student, which is kind of rare that I get to see everybody in the school. Like I said, we help with so many things. I wrote a list so I wouldn't forget. We assist with author visits, Battle of the Books, Rock Reading Night, Rebecca Cottle Book Talks, accelerated reading programs, book fairs, book displays, Six Flag reading programs. We create brochures, bookmarks, flyers. We catalog and process new books, and we repair damaged books. We also need to know the library so that we can help the teachers and the students find materials, either print versions or online versions. So we are very important to the school. Just to let you guys know. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I think I saw Tony Millay back there. Good evening, Tony.
Evening. I'll be quick because I saw it was a short agenda.
Keep it moving.
Good evening. A couple things. As you know, we are negotiating also. And I would like to thank Joan for speaking there. We greatly appreciate all the support they do provide for us. They're an integral part to the education that we do here. And we are, in the middle of negotiations. It's difficult getting dates. Our team is meeting tomorrow to try to get some dates. I know, Steve, you had asked about some more dates. So we're working on that. The other thing is next week, Amy Biancarri, our vice president, myself, and Jill Ewing from the middle school will be going to Denver for the NEA National Representative Assembly representing Batavia. So I hope everyone has safe travels during the summer here and enjoy this weather. It's been, now that the rain and the thunder seems to have subsided here, it's kind of nice out. Thanks.
Thanks. Next, we have one of our student ambassadors tonight, Jake. I told him everything rests on him.
Well, it is summer, so I have a super big report. Not really. There's not a lot going to school during the summertime, but I guess all I got is that the baseball team made it all the way to the Sweet 16 and ended their season well. And registration for everyone who's super excited for that begins August 5th. Thank you. Good man.
Okay, yeah, no, I didn't plug in, so I just lost my,
Right.
just lost my,
Celebrating successes.
thank you. Joanne. Yeah, will you mind plugging in?
So I am so excited to come here tonight to bring you some of our top students from the graduating class of 2014. We had 23 students that ended up as number one in their class, which means they had a 4.375 GPA, which means they took at least 12 honors or AP classes during high school and got straight A's. Most of them took far more than 12. When I was counting, I was pretty amazed at the numbers that were higher than 12, which is most of you, so it was really exciting. So I'm going to call the people that are here up. We had 7 people that were able to join us tonight, so I'm going to have them stand up and get their celebrations. Brandon Ersman. And maybe as you walk up, Brandon, if you could just tell us where you're going to school in the fall.
I'm going to Northwestern.
Major selected.
Engineering.
Okay. Jordan Barrett. So Jordan, as you come up, tell us where you're going to school.
I'm going to Miami University in Ohio, not Florida.
Awesome. Megan Amundo, she might be a stranger to you guys.
I'm going to Northwestern, also pre-med biology.
Pratik Mali. Come on up.
I'm going to Purdue and I'm studying actuarial science.
Good choice. Yeah. Tim Murak. Come on down.
I'm going to University of Wisconsin in Madison, and I'm going to be studying chemical engineering.
Lauren Sue.
I'm going to Iowa State University and I'm studying environmental science.
And Lillian Wengler.
I'm going to the University of Chicago, not U of I, at Chicago. And I will be double majoring in environmental studies and international affairs.
Wow.
Locked in? All right, just making sure I didn't miss anybody at the last minute there. All right, so we're so excited. I'm going to talk a lot more today about the class of 2014, but we are so proud of them for their accomplishments.
Congratulations. Our next item is our consent agenda. The consent agenda is a method of streamlining our meetings by taking one vote on a number of routine personnel and business items. Each of the items is detailed in the agenda and has been appropriately posted in the board packet. Mr. Pierce, will you read the consent agenda with the exception of removing 5.12 draft replacement bid and a change to Josh Bulak?
Yes, the first four, 5.1 through 5.4, are approval of our various meeting minutes during the month of May. 5.5 is our personnel report, and it's quite large this month with a lot of new employees, as well as a couple of resignations, retirements, and leave of absences. The change that we didn't make was because Josh Bulak accepted the position yesterday. He will be taking over from Mark Anderson at Rotolo Middle School as the Assistant Principal of Operations and Athletics. And it's a salary adjustment to $85,000. And now we have a dean's position open at Rotolo Middle School, so we'll be posting that soon. 5.6 is our routine financial items, approving the payroll, bills, invoice, journal summary report. we had a donation of $270 made to Rotolo Middle School to support their PBIS program from Wells Fargo. We had 2 FOIA requests during this past month. 5.9 is the destruction of our closed session recordings during the month of January in 2013. 5.10 is presentation of the graduating class of 2014. 5.11 is the usage agreement with Mid-Valley Special Ed Co-op. 5.13 covers the scoreboard donation to RMS from Advocate Health. We're happy with that relationship we have. 5.14 is the disposal of surplus property. That's all listed there. 5.15, the treasurer's report, which will include the fund balance, the revenue operating statement, and the expenditure operating statement. 5.16 is the lunch price increase in 2014-15 of 8 cents that was discussed at the Finance Committee today. 5.17 is the contract renewal with ATI Sports Medicine Therapy, and 5.18 is the annual Prevailing Wage Act notice. And that covers our consent agenda for tonight.
Are there any items for removal or clarification on the consent agenda tonight?
Yes, 5-1, policy committee meeting minutes, or something I'd like to amend.
Okay.
Whatever works.
Let's pull it off and vote on it separate, so we can have a discussion about it.
Right. Did you have something? Okay.
Yeah, 513, the scoreboard donation at RMS. It's more a, I guess, a discussion or a question. I know in our policy we have now been, I think it was adopted or amended in 2013 regarding advertising throughout the district, compared to the past practices that we had. And I guess it's more of a philosophical question of how or who determines what advertising we're going to have, and how do we approach that without showing any, how do I say, discrimination or putting ourselves in a bind that we may show either favoritism to one entity over another, or I guess just getting ourselves in a bind there, and legal water there, since we are kind of looking to move more and more into that in the future of advertising and promoting other commercial entities throughout our facilities. Is that something we want to pull out and discuss, or we just want to have a discussion, or is it not worth it?
Certainly pull out and have a discussion just to clarify that process.
If I can chime in real quick. Yes, we do have a policy that governs this, but advertising in schools is actually a topic that has come up for a couple of years now. I've actually sat through a couple of professional development sessions on that. So I've got an outline from a school attorney that kind of provides a lot of information as to what type of advertising, how to avoid getting into some of the ethical dilemmas about who gets to advertise and who doesn't. So I'd be happy to share that with the full board, and maybe we talk about it at the next policy committee.
Yeah, an agenda for something and just discuss. I just want to make sure we don't get ourselves in a sticky wicket.
Okay, so if
That's my
the
whole philosophy.
scoreboard particularly, it's just you want to make sure that we're philosophically on the same page and we all understand the
I mean, there's a competitor out there. How we, the whole, it's compared to our past practice where we didn't allow any of it, and we were pretty clear and it's simple.
Right.
Now, as we allow this, I just want to make sure we don't get caught into anything down the road as more and more people wish to get involved with this process. I guess that's all.
I second that also. I have some concerns also.
So are
Should we
you,
move it to talk about it after we?
well, that was my question. Do you want to vote on it separately, or is it that your actual request is to have a philosophical discussion of the policy or procedures behind it?
Well, within the discussion, I possibly could go to a vote, but
On the scoreboard?
on the scoreboard,
Okay, then
with some exceptions or something, but I just want to pull it out there and put it out there.
Okay.
Because I think that's something that also could go to the policy committee and so on to iron it out a little bit more details. But
Okay.
I just wanted to echo Greg's sentiments on this. because I had concerns.
Right, okay, so then I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda with 5.1, the policy minutes, 5.12, the track replacement bid, and 5.13, the scoreboard donation, all removed from the consent agenda.
And the change.
Oh, and the change in personnel.
Second.
Was that likely moved? Yes, for second? Kathy, could you call the roll?
Blakely.
Oh, I'm sorry. we don't have-
Yes.
Is there any, I'm sorry, Kathy, I should just
That's
check.
all
Is
right.
there any other discussion? We pulled those three things off, but I did fail to ask if you had any other questions or clarifications. No? All right, go ahead, Kathy.
Blakely,
Yes.
Gaspar,
Yes.
Hodge,
Yes.
Impastato,
Yes.
Locke,
Yes.
Dremel.
Yes. All right, consent agenda is approved. Dr. Hitchens, if you want to move forward with those policy minutes.
Sure.
Mrs. Locke, what did you have for us?
Just a minor change, and I briefly mentioned this to Brad. Under the discussion section, and let me find. And I apologize, I meant to mark this.
Is this the June 18th meeting?
No. The May 21st.
Okay.
Where it states that, I'm so sorry. I was doing this in the car. I know, I was doing this in the car when I was driving. No, when I was driving. No, I'm sorry, when I was riding in the car. I was not driving. That there will be no food still allowed at parties. I just wanted to say, per the request of building principals and the administration. Are you looking at this, Kathy?
I don't have it up, because
Okay.
I have the 18th, it was, so I don't.
I just wanted to reflect that it's not based on the board recommendation, it's
Okay.
based on building
The building principal and
principals
the
and the
administration?
administration.
Sure.
And I
I'll
will
add that.
find out, let me just go through this and I'll find out where it should be added. But that's all I just wanted to add.
I remember it, so I'll take care of it.
Okay, that's all, I just wanted that added.
No problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that-
So, no, that's
you
fine.
understand?
And I think that's consistent with what the actual point of the
Discussion was.
discussion was.
Mhm.
So, any questions on that? Okay, okay, Ms. Found it. All right, then I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes with the amendment from Mrs. Locke.
Second.
Moved by Impastato, second by Hodge. Kathy, can you call the roll?
Sure. Just a second, this is 4.1. Blakely,
Yes.
Gaspar,
Yes.
Hodge,
Yes.
Impastato,
Yes.
Locke,
Yes.
Dremel.
Yes. All right, track replacement bid. Is that Dr. Mallon's?
Yeah, I'll take this one. We discussed this at Finance Committee today as well, but after we submitted this board report, the administration, specifically Mr. Pat Brown, working with Mr. Dave Andrews at PHS, continue to do their due diligence and have come to the conclusion that we do not believe it's in the best interest of the board to accept this bid at this time. So we will be changing our recommendation to reject this bid, and we plan to resubmit the bid with slightly modified specifications, just switching around what is the base bid and what is the alternate sometime in the fall, possibly as part of a more complex project there. Some of the background behind that is we believe that we may have come into this bid too late in the season, that we may be a victim of the portfolio of work for the specific contractors possibly being full already. So they would have been willing to do this work, but they were going to bump up their margins and take the overhead that they could. Earlier in the season, when we had built our initial estimate of $170,000, that had been directly working with one of the track contractors that told us the scope of work, and the specifications were largely built based on discussions with them as to what the cost was. So the fact that this also would not have allowed us to make the improvements to the area of that field that we wanted to, in terms of moving some of the long jump and triple jump pit and the pole vault pit, we wanted to move around on the site in conformance with the longer term vision for the plan. And in getting those estimates, it would have bumped up the cost to almost $260,000. So we believe that it would be much more beneficial to the board and the district to reject the bids at this time. And we will instead contract with a company to do $10,000 to $15,000 worth of immediate repair on the specific areas of the track that need it, and then go for a more complex replacement next year.
Okay, this is kind of a silly question. So actually now we're just doing nothing.
But you should actually take a motion to reject all bids
Reject all bids.
for the DHS track replacement.
Okay, then I would entertain a motion to reject all bids for the BHS track replacement bid.
So moved.
Moved by Gasper, second by Hodge. Any questions or discussion on this topic?
Are we voting to also approve the expenditure funds for the Band-Aid approach?
You technically, generally, you would do that when that bill comes to you, because they would show up in the board bills.
So just the covering. Any other questions, discussion? All right.
I have one more question. The repairs that you're looking to make, they have to be made. I hate Band-Aids. I like to do more long-term things. This has to be done though for like life, health, and safety.
Yeah, I mean,
you can't avoid it and just put it off for a whole year, right?
The way it's been described to me, and perhaps Mr. Brown, if necessary, could provide more, but if you have a firm soled shoe, you can actually kick aside, some areas of the track and spread the pavement out. So yes, there are areas that need to be done for safety reasons. Agreed. Yes.
I know there was talk, just making sure it's in the right spot, maybe it's in the wrong spot of me saying this, but there was talk then of fixing that, right? So do we have to approve that, or is that?
That was what Melanie just asked.
Is that the mandate?
Chris said-
Mandate, okay, I want to
Right,
make
so
sure
we
the
want to
wording,
approve
I just
that
want to make sure the
stipulation.
wording, okay.
Anything else? All right, then can we call the roll on that motion?
Blakely.
Yes.
Gaspar.
Yes.
Hodge.
Yes.
Pistato.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Dremel.
Yes, the motion passes to reject all bids for the track. Now we move on to 5.13, the scoreboard. Greg and John, do you want to share your thoughts and concerns, or how should we proceed?
Kind of said it. I know I got long.
So are you
winded.
asking us not to entertain a motion for that, or just wanted to clarify in
Would you like
future
us to
moving
hold off
forward?
until we've talked in policy?
The policy does allow for
It
advertising
does
on the
say
scoreboard.
advertise, okay.
Yeah, it's
And
policy
with that, I
825.
think I saw that there was room for additional advertising. So then who determines who gets to advertise there? And obviously where do those dollars go?
Oh, that's actually a good question.
So that's kind of, let me see.
The last sentence in the second paragraph says there are additional advertising spots on the scoreboard which boosters will utilize immediately. So I guess part of the question is, okay, they can use it, but then who's saying what's going to go on it as in advertising?
Are there
On
now-
some kind of a approval basis, and what is it going to be? And so I think within our discussion, or my thinking too, I had this discussion with Dr. Hitchens, maybe something in policy has to come out that we have some major guidelines on what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, on what entities and how big signs are going to be and so on. I mean, we could line baseball field, because with the way the quote unquote the athletic field, or with donations or anything, I think we got to be very careful on how something's going to be perceived for coming in with donations and so on. I mean, I'm appreciative of any kind of donation. Don't get me wrong. I just think we got to be very careful on, like Greg said, who do you take, who do you maybe not. Maybe they have a great organization, but maybe something within that business does something that doesn't go with how schools should align themselves with. Okay, so, and Greg has a good example, so I didn't want to steal his thunder on that. So,
I mean, well, one question is, that with that question, the boosters, are they now our advertising firm or consultant that's going to determine who gets to
That is
advertise on our
actually an
facility?
interesting question, and Chris, you can probably answer this. You have a really good guideline, but the boosters are usually the ones making these agreements, so are they working?
I believe they generally have been working with Mr. Anderson and Mr. Andrews for the site-specific advertising. Because I believe the policy says the superintendent or designee, can work, on the advertising. the board always has the ability to reject, any type of advertising that may go on. If the boosters were to, if we see the authority to the boosters to go ahead and utilize those additional advertising spots, and some company goes on there that is contrary to the vision or mission that the board would like to see, of course, it is within your authority to take that advertisement down, and we would work with boosters to handle the financial aspect of that. So you never see the ability to have control over your own assets on your own property. So if that's a concern, it need not be.
Yeah, again, I don't want to continue to fund John Fester, unnecessarily. I mean, we could.
Buy him another boat?
Yeah, I don't want to buy him, as Ron used to say, buy him another boat. Sorry, John, if you're watching. But, I don't want to get stuck in a sticky wicket here that, someone else comes around and says, I want to put space on there, and somebody in the Booster Club, nothing against them, I was president of it one time, thinks, hey, yeah, that's a good idea, but then doesn't know maybe the philosophy, and the next thing you know, it's up there, and then we've got to retract it is a lot more difficult than saying, let's have it approved before we get, because this is a little more permanent. This isn't like having a banner out at the football stadium in the corner where somebody zip ties it on there, and, it's there for a game or two. This is a permanent structure which has, I'm assuming even lighted, I don't know, but.
We can craft an administrative procedure or whatever that, but really what it comes down to is we need to create the categories of advertisements that the board will allow on their, property and on their assets. So that within those categories, you cannot discriminate between any, groups within those categories. But if there are types of establishments or organizations that you want to prevent, like no political speech can ever really go on a public building, so that would immediately be exempted from this. But so long as you announce what categories are acceptable and you do not discriminate within those categories, you've created a fair and equitable basis for people to, purchase that space.
That kind of goes to what you said. I'd like to see that information, because I'm sure we're not the leaders in this. I've been to plenty of stadiums that have all kinds of stuff there. I just don't want to spend any more money for legal firm than we have to.
Not to reinvent the wheel, I mean, if it's out there, let us see what is out there so we can have a guideline, but it puts us out there in a spot that it helps us, I think, and just putting, I don't have a problem with getting the donations, but I want to just make sure, and like the length of the time, it said 10 years, why wasn't it 5 years, why is it not 20 years, Is there a money associated with the amount of money that's the length of time? So, I mean, those are little things. What's the size of it? Is it going to be 3 by 5? Is it going to be 5 by 8 sign? I'm talking about feet, So I think maybe it'd be a good thing for policy now. When you asked the question about voting, I said, I don't know, it could be one of those exceptions, since it's here, it's in front of us, I could do it with the exception saying, now we really got to take a close look at future things. I don't know how that sets a precedent though, with regards to, well, you already did it for this company, now we want to donate this in another month, but now you guys are going through a policy procedure thing. So that's where
Or maybe
I had concerns, so I had to bring it up.
I mean, I'm assuming there's other schools, our neighboring schools that do this type of advertising. Maybe we can look into see how they handle it.
Sure.
Because this is not a new, like you said, this isn't something new, and it's something that's been done, so maybe we could just see how they do it. I'm sure they do it fairly and just.
We have to be prepared for this, because, down the road, whatever, it could be the Ameritech, what if they come to the BFAC and say, we want to have the Ameritech BFAC, BP BFAC, or I don't know, whatever, but here's a chunk of money.
Right.
But we want our name on there. I mean, we're not a private entity like US Cellular can, Whiskey Park and throw that on there and change the name. I'm just using examples. Nike wants to build a stadium for us.
Nike wants to be all about Batavia.
Or Under Armour, and you got them all battling out there. I mean, it's just one of those things that.
So I think
I'm just looking at a bigger picture.
it definitely sounds like it's time, and we would all be in agreement that it would never hurt to revisit this at a policy committee meeting to put together, to make sure everybody understands the procedures and everything that you would know that if we followed these procedures when we did bring you something at the board meeting, that we did what you asked ahead of time. So we would avoid, figuring out what size to put in at a board meeting. That should be, what the administrators do following your guidelines. So we'll revisit this at the policy meeting about those guidelines. So that definitely will be on an upcoming agenda at the policy meeting. And then the question would be, we need to figure out if anybody is wanting to vote on this tonight.
Right.
Okay.
You are?
Hold on, I just want a discussion.
No, that's
I just want
fine.
everybody to look at the big picture,
Because
because we're opening a door here.
Right.
Once we, as I said before, we open this door, we can't close it. The door is open, and advertising is, become flooding in, we don't know.
Door's been open.
Yeah, if you look at our football field,
Yeah.
Door's been open for a while.
Yeah, and was it open in the right way? This is,
So-
we're involved.
Okay, so.
We weren't involved in those.
Are you comfortable voting on this tonight and we know it's going to show up on a policy agenda?
Yeah.
Yes, everyone? All right. Then I would entertain a motion to accept the donation for a new scoreboard at the Rotolo Middle School.
So moved.
Moved by Blakely,
Second.
second by Locke. Kathy, would you call the roll?
Blakely.
Yes.
Gaspar.
Yes.
Hodge.
Yes.
Impastato.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Dremel.
Yes, motion passes. Thank you for the new scoreboard at Rotolo Middle School. Next, we're going to move on to discussion items. The first one on the agenda is the district maintenance facilities.
I'm going to invite Mr. Pat Brown to come up to the table to give a lot of detail on this, but this item tonight is kind of the result of a couple of months of discussion at the Finance Committee. When we were presenting the capital improvement plan for the 2014-15 budget, one of the items included in that was approximately $130,000 for health, life, safety repairs at our current maintenance facility, which, as you can see in the board report, is 48 years old. It is one of the older facilities, and it was never really intended for the facility that's the current use that it's in. The $130,000 would be what's necessary to bring the fire safety systems within that structure up to code. However, knowing that in the vision for the athletic facilities that the board approved last summer, this structure is not in that long-term plan. So some of the board members at the Finance Committee asked us to bring back other options so that we weren't putting the $130,000 into a structure that is not part of the long-term vision for the district. So over the last few months, Mr. Brown has continually brought back different options about possibly purchasing and building new, along with leasing an existing facility and what the cost may be with that. At the May Finance Committee meeting, it was asked that we bring it to the full board for discussion and get some final direction, if possible. So we discussed again today at Finance, and the result of that was we were taking a look at the cost of leasing the existing structure and the additional capital expenses that would have to go into that. Mr. Brown did some additional work this afternoon and has some revised numbers to share with you this evening, but he can probably walk back through the history and a little bit more detail into the options that he's presented to you tonight, and then we can facilitate a discussion.
So everybody at their place should have the revised sheet that is double-sided. On the first page, it presents the three options, as Chris was mentioning, that we've been looking at over the last few months. Option one is to look at an existing space and remodel that space and lease that space after having put the upfront construction costs into the remodel to make it suitable for our needs, and then to lease to own essentially that space over the course of the next 10 years. Just walking through that briefly, that's a 25,000 square foot facility. We are anticipating a potential annual lease payment of about $144,000. And then we have associated costs of architect fees and upfront construction costs in this particular scenario of about just under $450,000. So for a total cost of ownership over the next 10 years being a little over $1.8 million. Option two that we've looked at, just to exhaust all options that might be available to us, were to see what land options were out there for purchase so that we could purchase land and then construct a building on that. We did work with Morgan and Associates at that time, who is one of the larger land developers in the area kind of over by Kirk Road, the industrial park. And we were able to find some land options for purchase that ranged around the $500,000 mark, where we could still have enough land to construct roughly a 20,000 square foot facility, which would match the square footage of the facility that we currently have over on the high school site. With the land purchase and the construction costs, you're looking at about $2.9 million in upfront costs, and then with some sort of a bond and interest structure, you're looking at a total cost of ownership over 10 years of about $6 million, a little over $6 million. And then the final option being to take and look at the existing facility, as Chris had suggested, and take and basically just put the HLS required repairs into it at this point. Within the board information, you have all the backup information that we have so far. We've worked with LAMP, our general contractor, in developing some of these numbers. We've worked with our architect, White, and we've also worked with KGWW as we have pulled together all these various numbers. Earlier today at the Finance Committee meeting, we got to a discussion that actually what's presented in your packet is different from what's in front of you for option number one. Option number one was us pulling together all potential options that would fit future vision as far as what the facility could be to provide things like an automotive area for automotive repairs, providing a lift and proper drain systems, providing full office space over there for the maintenance operation, providing welding stations, things of that nature. We've gone through, we actually toured the site again this afternoon following the Finance Committee meeting and went back to look through the assumptions that were within that based upon direction that we received from the Finance Committee. And we've been able to scale back. We believe that upfront construction costs could be as minimal as about $400,000. And that's what is represented in the option that is on paper in front of you today. We'll make sure that we get that posted appropriately for public review within board docs by tomorrow morning. So what we've done, I've gone back through it again, and on the back of the page that I sent, put at your place, I went back through again, reviewing what each of the pieces that we were provided by White as far as how they developed the estimate originally, and figured out what was an absolute must-have in remodeling the space in order to meet the needs of moving into the space. There is an area that I'm unsure of, so I literally created an unsure column. There's about $200,000 in some sewer and water work, which after visiting the site today, I believe may not be necessary, but again, it's one of those variables that I need more consultation to figure that out. And then there was about $775,000 in work that could be performed that is not absolutely necessary in order to have a veneer or a shell of a building that would be comparable to what we currently have that we could operate out of. So at this time I will be available for any questions. I think the intent really was to allow you some opportunity to discuss what the future of the sites would be and kind of what your thoughts were as far as where we should move forward with pursuing which option.
I'm going to jump in for a minute here. One of the reasons why TAD is essentially not making a recommendation is because there's two very different ways of attacking this problem, and I don't know that the Finance Committee could come to an agreement that we were very confident that there was one way that we wanted to bring to the board. We actually decided that we thought it was something that the full board should see all the information on. Unfortunately, Jason's not here tonight, but he did send me an email with his thoughts that he asked if I could share, so I'm going to share his thoughts just so you've got those before we move on to discussion. He says, I apologize for not being in attendance this evening. I wanted to present this statement as to my opinion on the maintenance facilities discussion being presented tonight. In our finance meeting this afternoon, July 23rd, 2013, the Board of Education adopted, no, he's referring to the board, I think he wrote it quickly. The Board of Education adopted the BHS Athletic Field Plan, July 23rd, 2013, as the future vision for the BHS campus. The current maintenance shed was not determined to be part of this future vision, and due to its age, 48 years, original intended use as a bus barn, and the amenities, it does not provide for our current uses such as lacking mechanical lifts for repairs and indoor welding station capabilities. Another major concern is current expenditures for health, life, safety issues that must be remedied if we are to expect to continue to use this antiquated facility at a cost projection of $135,000. And those are not our recommendations, right? Those are city and ROE.
Correct, fire department and the regional office, correct.
Thank you. The administration has done an excellent job in taking the directives from the board to investigate all options for alternative measures. This includes a rent-to-own strategy and renovation of a local space that will more than satisfy our long-term goals, scenario 1, and also an option to secure a new parcel of land to be purchased and build a new facility upon, which is scenario 2. I am in favor of scenario 1, which I firmly believe will generate an excellent return on investment over the next 10 years and beyond. It will provide a space that is safe, local, and will allow the district to better utilize our maintenance staff's capabilities to keep repair work in-house, such as welding and repairs to district autos and equipment in a safe and equitable manner. I have a hard time agreeing with the purchase and installation of safety equipment and upgrades into a facility that is at the end of its projected life cycle. The current maintenance facility's projected life cycle is 51.6 years, we're at 48 years, and has been used for purposes other than its initial purpose. The upgrades to this old facility is not transferable to a new site when one must ultimately be chosen. So in my opinion, it is a Band-Aid on a broken arm and not a good investment of our taxpayers' money. Scenario 1 will allow us to create more cost-saving measures in storage capabilities of supplies, performing repairs year-round, and providing a safer working environment for our employees. Scenario 1, in my opinion, will secure a solid long-term vision for our schools and community, both strategically and economically. I'm only one opinion on this board of 7. These are my thoughts, and whatever the outcome, I will fully support the decision of the board. So that's Jason's thoughts from his examination of the scenarios.
I just have a question, Pat. You had said the bottom of the list says our ownership is over 20 years, but you had said 10. Is it our ownership?
It is 10 years.
It is 10
At one point in
years.
time, we were talking about what the term would be.
Right.
So when the document was originally created, we were looking at potential scenarios for 20 years. But in everything that we wound up projecting, either whether it was some sort of alternative revenue bond or via lease payment, we broke that down to 10 years.
So it is 10.
It is 10.
I just want to clarify, we keep calling it a lease on option 1, but it's really almost like a contract for deed situation because it is a
Lease to own.
lease to own
Correct.
situation.
Pat, as for, I think you said involved, White was involved, you got some consultation from LAMP, KGWW. How much have we spent in expenditures and, for site, or how much time have they spent on the site and time and?
They have spent numerous hours so far. All 3 of those vendors have actually toured the facilities multiple times, been very heavily involved with developing and drafting this. We've not paid a dime to any of those contractors as of yet. Everything has been done to help us to get to this point, with hopes that they would do future projects.
Pat, when Sue and I went out after finance meeting today, to take a look at it, and you were talking about a structural fee to make sure that any of the life safety stuff that would have to get done would hold up if it was put up there and everything. That's where I have a kind of a concern on that part, because if we put it all in there and a year or 2 down the road, it starts to sag or something, or they come back and you do the structural survey type thing and it says it's going to be another $500,000. I still think there's some information I'm still trying to figure out on which way I could go, because I mean, one minute I'm here and 1 minute I'm here, because I don't like throwing money after bad money, as Jason alluded to, and I agree with a lot of what he said. On the other hand, within just a few weeks, a few hours, that the column 1 has gone down considerably, money-wise, from the meeting this afternoon to 1.8, where it was up around 3 million or so on. But I see what you're breaking it down to, to get to necessities. The building that's out there right now, we really can't add on or do anything because of the walls, but possibly in the scenario number 1, if you needed to add on to the building that's there, you could add on, and how long do you think that building would be good for if we went that route?
I don't know that there is available land at the present moment for that space to be added on to.
Okay.
That's most of the parcel that land is on is actually occupied by the building. But that is a 25,000 square foot facility. It is larger than we are currently using. We have over 20,000 square feet at the maintenance shop. With our plan, all of that would be usable dry storage, whereas over half of the square footage at the maintenance shop currently is not dry storage. It is cold, unconditioned space. So our conditions improve drastically as far as usability of the space in the scenario. As for the type of construction that is, the building that we're looking at, I believe, is a type 2 non-combustible construction. It's all masonry block. That has a very long lifespan to it, and it's in fantastic shape. There are no visible issues that we can see in the block. There's no settlement issues that we're concerned about. The building looks to be in very good shape, and I think it would last another 50 years. Whereas the current facility, I could not say that.
And I brought that up at finance. I'm just concerned that 3 or 5 years down the road, somebody comes in and says, no, we got to condemn it or something, and we put maybe $200,000 into it. That's just money that was wasted. So, I mean, that's where I'm struggling with this. So those are.
If I can clarify one thing too, going to the 25,000 square feet, I cannot envision a scenario where that would not be adequate for our maintenance department. We're not a growing district, so we don't see staffing in that area growing to where we need additional space. It's more than we currently have, so adding on is not in the foreseeable future of that facility.
But the building is sound, it's been updated or?
It's been well maintained. Okay.
So basically the main part would be that the unsure with the water that we talked about at finance, about running that water sewer line.
Yeah, the unsure piece that I have right now is not knowing for sure whether or not a new water tap would be required. When I first toured the facility, there's 2 buildings on 2 different parcels but owned by the same owner. Some functions such as the sprinkler and the fire alarm control panel are actually in the sister building. So part of what this plan was to take and separate those services so that the building could stand alone. And I thought that there were more services that were required in there, such as that $200,000 that's in there for water main and sewer. I wasn't sure if that was all being routed through the other building. At the moment, I'm led to believe through conversations I've had this afternoon that may not be the case, but we'd still have to investigate further.
Who has inspected both this building on Main Street and also our existing building to say that A, the Main Street building is sound, as we're being told it is, and B, who's looked at the maintenance shed? I mean, I'm hearing horrible things about the maintenance shed, but actually, whose opinions are these, I guess, is my question.
So for the maintenance shop, the existing maintenance shop, the fire chief has been out there, the regional office, the health life safety inspectors have been out there on numerous occasions. We've had our architect, White & Company, in through the building. We've had our engineer through the building. We've had Lamp Incorporated through the building. So all those vendors have gone through the building, helped us to develop cost estimates, help us to identify as many of the unforeseen conditions that we might have to deal with as possible as we're considering how to best remedy what the issues are. The opinions that represent the money that would have to go into that building actually come from the violations that were noted by the Regional Office of Education in conjunction with the fire department. Both feel that the space poses a threat to our staff. We have been told by the fire department that should there be a fire in there, they're only conducting a search and rescue, and that they would let the building come down otherwise. I'll address what some of the major concerns are in there. The building has, it's a pole construction, wood pole construction building. It has a truss system that is set 10 feet on center. So there's 10 feet in between each rafter. In between that, there are some 2x4s that are run, and then the corrugated metal roof that you see from the outside has been fastened to those. Over the years, when the structure was moved from being used for storing the bus fleet to being used as a maintenance operation, They did things such as pour a concrete floor in there and also try and heat some portion of the building. In doing so, what they found when they introduced heat to the building was that the heat would rise to the bottom of the metal deck, that corrugated metal roof. And in the wintertime when it's cold outside, that would actually cause condensation. It literally will rain inside of the building. Sue made a comment when she walked in. She saw that one of our maintenance men actually has kind of an umbrella tent built over the top of his workstation right now so that he's able to operate in that space without wearing a poncho. So to combat that over the years, there has been it's a rigid foam insulation that's been mechanically fastened to the bottom of the deck. The specification from Owens Coring, who's the manufacturer of that, state that there should be at least a 30-minute fire separation applied to the living side of that material. That has never been done. The reason why they want that in there, when it heats up, the material can actually flash, causing quite a bit of smoke vapor, which is toxic to occupants, to spread. The other concern is that as it continues to melt, it becomes kind of a glob that's very tacky. And if that were to fall on top of somebody, it would definitely cause very significant burns and not something that would be easily removed. So we've been tasked with trying to find a product that we can apply over it. Typically, that would be a 5/8 inch drywall that would be mechanically fastened over that. Again, because the truss system is applied 10 foot on center for spacing, that's not nearly enough structural support to be able to fasten drywall and still bear the weight of that. That's where we've gone to, in the plans that we've looked at, trying to think outside the box, we came up with a Newton-Messing paint, which has got some rating to it, and basically it's a product that's sprayed on just like paint, and it has a hardening factor to it and would provide, we believe, the rating that is necessary. We still need, as John was talking about, a structural analysis of that roof, which is part of a proposal that if we were to move forward with this option, I would be contracting with White & Company to perform part of that structural analysis along with the other design documents so that we can ensure that we actually have the structural capacity of the roof to apply that product.
And if we move forward on option one, we would be having some kind of formal inspection done of the actual building?
We could. At the moment, there was no plans for it. So I think I've only addressed one half of your question. The other half of the question was who's been into the other building. I have been in that building a number of different times taking a look. I've also invited our architect, and our architect has spent time looking through that building. Gave us an initial opinion of the building, felt that the building looked, as I said, to be in excellent shape as far as maintenance goes, and that there were no visual concerns at the moment. It is a well-maintained facility. So, moving forward, if it's more comfortable, we can certainly contract with some sort of a inspection service to do kind of like a property inspection like you'd see on a home.
Could ROE or the city condemn that building at any time?
The existing maintenance shops? Yes. They are working with us and allowing us time to develop this plan.
Okay.
So there is not that rush at the moment. We've been reporting back to both on a regular basis as we move forward. They're pleased that we're having these conversations. Doing nothing, I think, is the only option that would not be acceptable to them at this point. We do need to make a decision to do something, whether it be to find another facility to operate out of or to make the repairs. But currently they're satisfied with the progress that we're making. They understand that these conversations take time.
And then if option one was, let's say, approved, what would happen to that maintenance shed? Would it be torn down immediately?
No, actually it wouldn't. I believe that we would lock it up. We would still use it for some of the storage that is not requiring any type of environmental controls. We would cap off many of the services, essentially almost bringing it back to the state of when it was a barn. Yeah, the cold storage barn.
So you wouldn't have to do any of the updates that the city or the ROE is saying?
Some of the things that we would do in-house, I would pull the foam insulation off of the roof, just so that was completely gone. So there's minor things that we would do in-house, but at the moment we're not proposing that we demolish the building, not until a later point where improvements following the master plan would be followed.
I just wouldn't want to see doing something if option one was approved, then you're spending more money into the shed. I mean, that.
You mean to
that-
tear it down or whatever?
Or tearing it down is one thing, I can understand, you know, getting rid of it for safety or whatever, but not to put any more money into it because you're going to still use it or something.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
That, to me, that makes no sense at all
Right, and
either.
we're defeating the purpose.
Right, so that's why I just wanted to ask the question.
But like it was originally built as a cold storage bus barn when we still had our own in-house busing program. So, I mean, it's really just a shell structure, and that's its intent. It's not, it wasn't all that long ago that a concrete floor was put in it. I mean, they were working on it with a gravel floor, so you couldn't seal it from the elements or the roads or anything like that. So, I think we've got more than we bargained for our money's worth out of that facility. And I think it's time to maybe look to do something on a more permanent basis. And I like the location, as they say, real estate location is important, the Main Street location. And it's, I'm familiar with the site, and it's, and looking at these numbers, I knew when, that's why I asked about the architect, they are going to look at things and put it at its grandest scale.
Right.
You know,
Every
they're going
budget,
to
potential
everything, and
use.
then he used the word fluff, but put the fluff into it. Well, I mean, Pat saw through it, and you can see what. Also, we have some talented people here in house that could do a lot of the stuff in house, and I think. I think it's a pretty good option after reviewing all this. It's nice to see the numbers come more in line and that structurally what it's sound. So I lean towards option. I agree with you. I don't know if we are. I'm just giving my opinion.
Giving the administration direction on which option to focus on, correct? And you would start then actually gathering numbers and doing all of that due diligence to bring it back to us and say, okay, you give us direction on option X, here's what's really involved in doing that, do you still want us to move ahead with that?
And add on to that,
Correct?
that goes on to my philosophy that we have to take care of the infrastructure that we have built here. And part of that is having a maintenance department do that. And we're no longer one pickup truck with a bag of tools.
So you like that?
Maintenance, D&G is good.
Yeah.
I just wanted to thank you for a little field trip this afternoon. I think it really opened my eyes. I think if anybody else is on the fence here, they need to really take a look over there and see what's going on, because please extend my appreciation to your crew over there for those conditions that they're working at or under. Like I said, when I saw that tarp, that really blew my mind away. You just can't be working under rain. That's unacceptable. And I think we need to be mindful of how fiscally responsible we need to be. We are looking long-term, not just
What we're spending next
what
year.
we're spending next year. And I think this option may be better in the long run, because it may be $135,000, $200,000 this year. But we're gonna have to spend it eventually, and it may be another $200,000 next year, or the year after. I mean, it's always gonna be something. It's like, I think you mentioned this, like a used car. Every year it's something, and eventually you have to break down and buy a new car anyway. So at some point, you have to bite the bullet. I am glad to see these figures have come down. It does bring it a little bit more in line. My other question, and I think you've answered this before, but if we agree to this option one that we're talking about, we don't have to do the health life safety upgrades, right?
At the existing facility? That's correct.
They will kind of give us a pass, right?
Well, it changes the use. The fact that it is an occupied building by
Right, but they
people-
haven't said September 1st it must be done.
Oh, no.
You must bring it up to code by then.
No.
As long as they know we're doing something, we're good to go.
I'm kind of starting to hear where some of you are coming from, John. I know you said you're kind of wavering. Do you have direction. John, Tina, Melanie, I haven't really heard from you guys where you're leaning on this.
I was very torn for a long time. I believe you cannot be a penny rich from town poor, and I don't see this existing building as being anything but a money pit. That I think once they start making these improvements, I think you're gonna run into bigger issues possibly that are gonna cost even more than $138,000. So I would say definitely option 2 is off the table for me. I'm not interested in purchasing land, but I'm also leaning towards option 1 because I think to be fiscally responsible means looking past the current calendar year and looking past even beyond our terms on the board. So, and I actually think it's a pretty big deal.
Well, I like how the money's come down from this afternoon to now. I mean, but I agree with Melanie. Option 2, definitely, I voted that myself, no, long time ago. I'm concerned on the structure. I mean, even if they came back and said it was sound, I'm just still afraid that a few years down the road, something happens or they find something, and I stressed that at the meeting too, that always afraid there's always something hidden going to be out there, and that's just more money to something else. Do I want to spend the $1.8 million? No. Do I just want to throw money after bad money? No.
Plus $138,000 isn't anything to scoff at either.
No,
I mean,
it's
that
not.
should last a long
But
time, and I'm going to
the
do
thing
it.
is if this is a sound building, option 1, then you know it's going to be there long after we're, at least I'm out of here.
Personally, for option 1, I would like to see some kind of independent, I wouldn't buy a house without making sure the foundation and everything was structurally sound. I'm sure that all the people that have been out there are very qualified, but I'd like to see something in writing saying
Yes.
this is.
How old is the building?
That I don't know off the top of my head.
I guess probably that is one thing we probably all would like to see, Pat, is just some, like Melanie said, independent assessment of this state of the building, and maybe some independent assessment that ultimately our purchase price is reasonable for the facility, competitive with the market. It seems, like Melanie said, it's essentially, if it's really worth this price, it's a good way of financing it because we're not having to come up with the full purchase price ahead of time. That seems like a very, very generous option for us. But we want to make sure that it's really worth this rather than, finding out, oh, it's only $1 million building and we pay 1.4 for it or whatever.
Or I don't want to.
So we
I don't want to
also
get
need
into.
to further do our due diligence that the 400,000 represented as construction costs, as what it would take to get us in the building, is in fact certified by other people than just Mr. Brown and myself as well. So we want to get the
Not that I'm
estimates
trying to
there.
insult you all, because I'm sure you're highly qualified, but I don't want to get into a situation either where we're in this lease, this long-term lease, and there's something that's structurally wrong with the building that had we done better due diligence, we would time. I mean, I just keep going back to that stadium in Texas, that football stadium that they spent $60 million on, and they had to close it because it's not structurally sound now.
Yes.
So Tina, do you have a direction you're leaning?
I'm leaning towards option 1.
So I guess it sounds like we all very much like option 1 in terms of we think it could be a very good solution long-term for the district. So would the next steps be, Pat, that you would then do the due diligence and bring back a meaty report for us so we can have all of those lingering questions answered?
So what I was hearing is an appraisal of the property, appraisal for value, property inspection conducted by third party, firm up our construction cost numbers, and then do we want some sort of a potential agreement with the property owner to be viewed at that time as well?
Yes, because I know there was also a spongy number there, just because it was based on conversations, so if you could, I like your sharp pencil, because your sharp pencil did good things for us today, so if you could get that sharp pencil out again and really talk to the owner and see what really they're willing to work with us on, that would be fantastic.
Can you find out how old it is also?
Of course. I have that. I actually have the original drawings.
Okay.
There's a building plus an addition on that site. I just don't know the date. So
Yeah, there's two separate construction dates on the different
By
parts
us
of the building.
buying this building, are we losing the property tax collection?
It would come off of the tax rolls at some point. Yes.
Yeah, I know you said that the ROE was being cooperative, but did they give you a date deadline or anything? I mean, do you need to move quicker rather?
No, they're definitely not pressuring us. As I said, they are happy that we're making progress, and they do understand the nature of these conversations. So they're working with us at the moment. I think if we were to report back that we have not made any movement in any direction, then they would start to get a little bit excited. But right now, we're doing it right. Our next round of health life safety inspections will be in October. I think if we come a full year cycle and have no action on it, then it would be shown as a delay, and that might be a different conversation, just to give a ballpark of what I would anticipate at this point.
So do you anticipate that you could bring good information to us to the next finance committee?
Yes,
meeting?
I do.
Would that be acceptable to everyone? Yeah. Excellent. All right, any other questions?
Thank you.
I do appreciate, Pat, the fact that when we asked you, what would this really just take for us to move into this building, that you were able to actually move through everything and answer that. That really helped clarify things, at least for me, when I was looking at these numbers. So I appreciate that work that you did with very well notice. All right, moving on. Next item for discussion is the class of 2014 exit report. Hi, Jen.
So, thank you for letting me share some information about the class of 2014. You were all there at the graduation in Northern on May 21st. But I provided you in the board book, and Tony's putting it up there, thank you, with some specific details about the class of 2014. And the first piece of information is just at the top of that document. It just talks about the graduation requirements, which have not changed. I just got updating on that, and the number of students that graduated in January, and the percent of students that graduated actually finished all 8 semesters at the high school. At any point, stop me and ask questions if you have them.
Okay, I'm going to jump right in. I was a little surprised at that number of early graduates. Is that a larger or smaller percentage, or is that just sort of typically what we've had?
You know, I think last year we were at 89% or 90%. I think we're probably right around there most of the time.
Okay.
You know, a large number of our students go, you'll see it later in the report, go to Alonzi after high school, so many of them graduate in January and get a kind of a head start at Alonzi.
Okay.
So the first chart is the honor roll data. This just gives you kind of a historical picture of our students and where they land in terms of the honor roll. 4.375 is the highest honor roll. You saw many of those students that were here today. There were 23 of those students this year. High honors is the 4.0 and honors is 3.5. So as you saw today, there were many students here that did reach that benchmark. And like I said earlier, there's lots of ways to get there. Some students take, very few, but many students take 12 honors or AP classes right at the dot, and they get straight A's all through high school, but that's not the typical of what you saw today. Many of those students were taking 17 and 18 honors and AP classes in their high school career, and many of them, got straight A's in every single class. So it's certainly they definitely took a very rigorous coursework in high school. Also in the next chart is the GPA by decile. This kind of gives you when students say I'm in the top half of my class or the top 10% of my class, it kind of gives you a picture of what that looks like. What I'm always interested in is if you look at the top 10%, that's a GPA of 4.16 this year. That means that students in the top 10% of their class all took honors and AP classes, because there's no way to get a 4.16 without, getting above a 4.0 without taking a number of honors and AP classes. Okay, and then if you look down at the next chart, the achievement results. As you notice here, this is one that I'm particularly happy with. The number of AP tests that we've given, if you look at just over the last 3 years, from 128 to 315, May has become very, very busy between obviously graduation and all those other things, but also, really arranging for 315 tests. So May has become very busy, but it's also very exciting. So almost tripled those numbers in the last 3 years. Also there, you'll see the college readiness benchmarks, and this is the PSAE test that these students would have taken last April, so their junior year. These are the percents of students that reach the college readiness benchmark, and there's a very specific technical definition of what that means. Basically, it means you have a 50% chance of getting a B or higher in the classes that correlate to those subject areas in college, and a 75% chance of obtaining a C or higher. And these are put out by ECT. So I will take a breath if anyone has any questions. Okay. And finally, I listed there the top transcript requests for the current seniors, so to be freshman college. And so this was also always interesting to me. It does change quite a bit. You know, obviously Waubonsee is still our top choice. But if you look here, for example, last year U of I at Urbana was the second choice. This year it's ISU, which I was very happy about because that's my alma mater as well. But if you kind of just look at all the options, we do have a changing tide of certainly those bottom choices of students that are going to different universities. Also, many of our students, I think the number was over $1 million in scholarships. So many of our students got full rides or at least partial scholarships.
I know it's hard to track. I think I might have asked this question a year or two ago about the number of students that go to Waubonsee and then transfer out. Have they ever given us any data about that and where a lot of these students are going, or how many are taking on, say, getting either their associates or some of their gen eds done there and moving on to some of these other schools, and what kind of data there? Because that, obviously we do have a lot that go there, but they go there and then they go down the list and they go to a number of other schools. And I'm just kind of curious to see how that, if that data is available or how that works out. For, you know, I mean,
We do get an annual report from Waubonsee about many things. We don't get a report from them about where the students go after Waubonsee. We get a report about how many students finish their associates, or, you know, for example, how many students are entering taking remedial courses versus accredited courses. But we don't get that from Waubonsee. We do have a clearinghouse that we go through that tracks the students long term from other universities. But Waubonsee specifically does not give us that information.
Nice report.
Thank you. And after the final, after going to Northern now 2 years in a row, we have decided to go back there again next year. We find it to be very accommodating, and it's a great environment. Kids can bring as many family members and friends as they want. So it will be on a Wednesday again, which is a change this year, but I found it to be a great experience. I was, you know, a little, not worried, but just curious about what Wednesday versus Friday would look like. And for me, it was no different other than having to wake up a little earlier, you know. A Saturday, next day. So we have chosen the next year's date as May 20th. It's been a Wednesday night in Northern. We'll see you all there.
I myself have kind of informally just asked graduates as I see them here and there, and then some that were last year, I think, that were going to graduate, and just about what their opinion, and I've got nothing but positive feedback from them. And then parents that I've bumped into. I have yet to get something negative out of it. So maybe I don't listen to their stuff, but and no, so I think it's pretty neat.
Right.
We have a rough count on how many parents and.
I did not get a count from NIU. I can certainly look into that.
I was just wondering. I'd be curious to know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, one of the options.
I didn't know that was my job to count when I was sitting up there.
You should have. Yes.
One of the options that Northern allows is to do tickets, and we would purchase that through them, that they would manage the ticketing and give us that head count and print the tickets for us. And since we don't go with that option, because that was why we went to Northern, so that people can bring as many family members as they want. So we don't pay for that service through them, and so they wouldn't really track that for us. It would just be an eyeball.
I was just curious. Okay.
I love this information. Thank you. It's so fun to do it. Thanks, Dan.
Section next year.
Moving on to the policy committee report. We have some policies for first reading and some policies for two readings.
Yes, at last Wednesday's policy committee meeting, we talked about several policies, and there's one that we're actually asking that you, that the policy committee thought you would be ready to approve. That would be the home and hospital instruction policy changes. You can see, if you look at that PDF, you can see in red what the recommended changes are. And then there, we subscribe to PRESS, which is a policy service which interprets school code and helps you guys to adopt your policies that would keep up with all the changes. So one of the major revisions was to policy 4170, and about formatting and discussing and showing what is in an emergency, the safety and security of the students, what goes into the plan. And so if you look at that 4170, there are quite a few changes there that you would notice. And then the press is also recommending, because of those changes, they wanted to move out a couple things. One of them about insurance and one of them about support personnel and,
Child sex
yes,
offenders.
the sex offender and the screening of our volunteers, thank you. So they moved those two pieces out. So those aren't necessarily changes, so we're not recommending a change in practice of the screening because we do have very thorough screenings for the students who have daily contact with our students. I think some parents that were reading the policy report saw that they were maybe a little bit confused that you would have to go through a criminal background check to volunteer in a classroom. We don't currently do that. They do all get screened through the sex offender database as you enter and you bring your license. But we don't do the criminal background history check of every parent that's volunteering in the classroom because they are under the supervision of a teacher. So we aren't recommending a change in practice. It was just moving something from policy 4170 and creating a new policy to move that part out separately. So that would explain those changes to the 400 level. Those three go together. And then policy 5280, which is the support personnel. That's the one that we were going to ask you to adopt it, but we needed to look into one change based on the policy committee, so we decided to put it as a first reading. And that was because we want to make sure that we're helping out our support staff by only asking them to keep one of their licenses current. Questions or comments about any of the policies?
Did we find out about that?
Right, yes, we did. I spoke with the ROE and it's perfectly fine as an exemption, as it's stated in our policy. The language currently that is in the proposed policy covers the fact that someone who is a paraprofessional, if they have a PEL, professional educator license, they only have to have that, and then they can be employed as a paraprofessional here. Therefore, they don't have to pay for both licenses, which is what we're after.
I have a question on for 170. They talk about an EOP on their emergency operations plan and addressing that. How do we stand with that process? I know that's an ongoing, ever-evolving process, but how's that going? And I'm not putting you on the spot to have an update on this thing, but maybe it's something down the road at one of our or we get a little review of that, or
The federal government released new guidance last year on school emergency operations plans, and this is what press is actually doing, is implementing some of the components of their guidance and kind of formalizing that in the policy. There really aren't any substantial changes, or I shouldn't say substantive changes to the policy that we're doing, but there's substantial enough that we're recommending that you put some of these on first reading, because some components of the policies that exist now is being pulled out and being inserted into other policies and moved around. So there's a new policy we're not changing how we handle child sex offenders, we're just actually taking it out of the safety policy and making it a standalone policy. We're also moving some items on student insurance to the student insurance component, but backtracking. Nothing really is changing, but to answer your question directly, we're following the guidance from the federal government that was released last June, so we're kind of ahead of the game in that regard in terms of this policy. We've got emergency operations plan that we'll be deploying to staff and training staff on when school starts the beginning of the school year. So we're in good shape there. That work is never done. It will constantly be revised, and actually what this policy does is formalize some of those revision policies that will give the board a little bit more insight into how those policies, that emergency operations plan is reviewed, and we're going to have to discuss that more on the policy committee later this summer.
thanks.
So what the policy committee is asking for is your feedback about 4 of those policies, and then they're asking that you approve the changes to 6150.
So I would entertain a motion for a first reading of 4.1, 4.170, 4.175, and 5.280, and passing of policy revisions to 6.150.
So moved.
Moved by Jasper, second by, was it you? Second by Locke. Kathy, would you call the roll?
Blakely,
Yes.
Gaspar,
Yes.
Hodge,
Yes.
Impastato,
Yes.
Locke,
Yes.
Dremel.
Yes. Motion passes. The first, 4 policies for first reading and 1 policy changes accepted. Moving on to administration comments. Dr. Hitchens.
I'm good tonight, thank you.
Okay, board comments. John, would you like to start again?
I'm very brief. It really is.
Show me, please.
I wanted just to thank everyone at the high school and RJAC on my concerns and questions, and everybody and Pat for the tour today and the extra work to get all this done, and to Chris. I also just wanted to congratulate the Batavia High School Robotics team and the Bulldog Champion Football team and the Bulldog Marching Band for receiving an award from the Loyalty Parade Committee. Unfortunately, I was out of town during the parade, so I couldn't have been there. But I just wanted to say that it was nice that they got recognized, and I just wanted to wish everybody a safe summer. Can't get any shorter than that.
Do you have anything, Sue? Anything? Right?
I just wanted to remind everybody at your station here, we received this like a coupon thing Monday, June 30th from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Panera is helping to support with conjunction of Batavia Women's Club, help support Chip In Batavia, that organization, and they'll give a % of their sales to it. But down in Panera, I know John, you're a frequent person in Panera, so I've met there many times with you. But also you can go to the website of
I was wondering if you could.
yeah, Chip In and get more information. But June 30th. They just wanted me to know.
Thank you.
Anything, Melanie?
No. I guess just thank you to the high school. I thought the graduation was wonderful and well organized, and I really enjoyed participating in it, and I'm very excited to become a high school parent next year.
Sue? I am also good. So that short, sweet meeting, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Gaspar, seconded by Hodge. Deputy Caldwell.
Blakely?
Yes.
Gaspar?
Yes.
Hodge?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Bach?
Yes.
Drummond?
Yes, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.